What's up, college football fans? Welcome back to an all-new episode of the Cover 2 College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Smithson, joined, as always, by my co-host, the Okie Longhorn himself, Dalt, as usual, first and foremost. How are we doing today, buddy?
We're doing good, man. It's here. It's here, and
just a few days.
It's hate week. I absolutely can't stand you this week, and we got a little bit of a side bet going that I feel like I'm going to have a real good time with. Either Sunday night or next week. It's going to be really advantageous for me.
Oh, yeah.
I just got a little stat for you there, Tim. 725. Does that mean anything to you? It's the number of days it's been since OU scored on Texas.
Yeah. You Texas fans like to cling to that game last year, which is fine. Whatever. It's fine. But Dalt, we got outside of Red River, which is definitely the focal point of a podcast hosted by an OU and Texas fan this week. We do have other games. There are going to be other college football games played. Not that they are really relevant to me and you, but we're going to talk about them because it would be a disjustice to our podcast if we didn't. We're going to give a quick recap of our Week 5. We weren't able to get a recap episode earlier this week again, but we'll get right into things, Dalt. Just as far as news goes, we do have one little tidbit to touch on, but then we got our AP Top 25 poll. The only news we really have, Iowa starting quarterback Cade McNamara was announced yesterday, I believe, confirmed, torn ACL, out for season. So you have to imagine that that hurts the Hawkeyes' chances there in the Big Ten West. Other than that, it's obviously news, but
it completely derails Iowa's chances in the Big Ten West.
Right.
Like any chance they had of potentially winning the Big Ten West is gone now. Now Wisconsin can basically sleepwalk into that spot. And there's nobody else over there that can remotely push Wisconsin except for Iowa. And now with the loss of kind of what made the offense halfway out of a coma is now gone, so now you're just right back to not being able to score more than 9 points a game.
Yeah, it's not like Cade McNamara was doing great things anyway, so it obviously is a huge loss for Iowa. Definitely kind of puts a damper on what they had going there, but that's really our only news, Dalt. So it's, big news for Iowa, not really big news for anybody else, kind of irrelevant. But with that, Dalt, we have a new Top 25 poll. Not a ton of change, a little bit here and there, but if you would like to, I will let you. I'll let you get into that top 25 poll, and then we will discuss some things that stand out.
Yes, sir. Remaining at number 1 is Georgia with 35 first place votes. Remaining at number 2 is Michigan with 12 first place votes. Remaining at 3 is Texas with 10 first place votes. Ohio State stays at 4 with 1 first place vote. Florida State stays at 5 with 4 first-place votes. 6 is Penn State. 7 is Washington. Moving up 1 spot to 8 is Oregon. Kind of a trend for the team dropping 1 spot to 9 after a win and a 5-0 start. USC drops a spot to 9.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10, Notre Dame moves up 1 spot. Alabama moves up 1 spot to 11. OU moves up 2 spots to 12. Washington State moves up 3 spots to 13. North Carolina moves up 1 spot to 14. Oregon State jumps back into the top 15, moving up 4 spots to 15. Ole Miss moves up 4 spots to 16 after their win over LSU. Miami moves up 1 spot to 17. Quietly kind of staying there at 4-0, coming off a bye week. Utah drops 8 spots to 18 after their loss. Duke drops 2 spots after their loss. Kentucky moves into the top 25 at 20 after their bludgeoning of Florida. Missouri moves up 2 spots to 21. Tennessee drops a spot after a win to 22. LSU drops 10 spots to 23. Fresno State moves up 1 spot to 24. And your Louisville Cardinals break the top 25 at number 25. Teams receiving votes: 5-0 Maryland, Kansas State right on the verge, Texas A&M on the verge, UCLA Just kind of to note, West Virginia receiving 5 votes for the top 25. Neil Brown just saving his job 1 week at a time.
Right.
Got a bye week to get ready for whoever's next week. Just good for him.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Definitely kind of a surprise team there in the Big 12. They're what, 4-1, 3-1?
3-1 with their sole losses to Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who had to backdoor cover.
Yeah, you look at Florida and Kansas, Dalt, our 2 teams that dropped from the rankings, which they were, they're at 22 and 24 last week. Real quick, though, Dalt, I mean, going up and down this list, as far as like the top 13, 14, 15, I don't really have any serious issues with anything there. You mentioned USC dropping. It's just not really surprising. They just, had a game that they had well in hand against Colorado, and they let them right back in it with the porous defense. And, they just don't that they're not a complete team. That's just, it's kind of the same song and dance with Lincoln Riley. It's an incredibly good offense with arguably the best college quarterback that maybe we've ever seen. And they just can't get it done on the defensive side of the ball, even with, the good players that they've brought in. It's really strange, really odd. But going further down here, Dal, Kentucky breaks into the top 20. Missouri, they moved up a few spots. LSU at 23.
Zero reason for them to be in the top 25 after last week.
I don't understand it. I've never seen more SEC bias. This team, LSU, I'm not going to say they're a bad team, Dalt, but I don't think that they're that good. I mean, you get in a shootout with an Ole Miss team that a week ago Alabama held to 10 points, and you give up 55 to Ole Miss, which we're going to talk about that game. But then, Louisville comes in there at 25. Personally, not sure they're going to be ranked next week because they face a really tough Notre Dame team this week, which we're going to talk about that game. Anything about these rankings stand out to you, Dalt? Any major? I mean, Utah dropped 8 spots after kind of what the writing was on the wall. They were just kind of due for that loss against Oregon State.
I believe they're on a bye week this week, and then they come back with USC next week, right?
I would have to look, but that may be right.
So that bye week is going to be huge. It's either a bye week now or next week before I know they have a bye week before they play USC. That's going to be huge because that's one more week to get Cam Rising back. Without Cam Rising, this Utah team is ass. I'm just gonna lay it out there. They're ass. They're not ass.
They're not very good offensively. No.
But I don't really hate it. The big thing that everybody's talking about this week is Georgia started the year with 60 something of the first place votes.
Yeah.
In the AP poll, and now they're down to 35.
Starting to see that spread out a little bit. Looks like Is this as wide open as college football has maybe been in a long time, Dalt?
I'm going to tell you right now, 1 through 12, I think would give each other a really good game.
On paper,
I would even go. I could even go as far as 15. I think Oregon State could hang with a lot of people on the top. We're going to find out. They play a handful of these teams in the Pac-12 that are ranked inside the top 10. It's a great year to be a college football fan.
Oh yeah,
I know. And everybody that's got kind of a bad team's like, how you can say that now because Texas and OU are 5-0 going into the Red River game since 2011. And
well, I mean, it is good. I mean, Texas appears to be pretty good. Obviously, Miami's undefeated. Florida State's good again. You still have Georgia's obviously undefeated. Ohio State's good. Michigan's good.
Notre Dame's
5-1. Alabama's 4-1. The Pac-12 is as good as it's maybe ever been in our lifetime. I mean,
ever going to be.
As good as it's ever going to be again. Since USC in their heyday in the early 2000s. But even then, that conference as a whole was not great. Back then, it was just USC was really good. But that's a really good conference. Just some really good teams.
For the first time
but it just seems kind of wide open.
The first time in forever, the SEC West isn't just Alabama's to win.
The SEC West is kind of mid.
Maybe. I mean, you got more undefeated teams in the SEC East than you do the SEC West.
Little midness in the SEC West. But yeah, but back to these rankings. I don't have a whole lot more to add, Dalt. But yeah, I don't disagree with you about that 1 through 12, 1 through 15. I think any of those teams put on paper, you're looking at like a one score spread as far as that goes. And I mean, you could probably say it's always that way, but I just feel like this year, as much as any year maybe that we can remember recently, there's just quite a bit of, I don't even know if I'd say parity. It's just like there's just not like a team that just looks head and shoulders better than everybody else. Like Georgia the last few years, they've looked like better. Like there's been teams that have been able to compete with them, but like they're just better. Like this year, even they look good, but they just look a little bit more vulnerable. Like, and that's hard to sustain. I mean, they've won national title 2 years in a row. That's really hard to do itself, but now you're trying for a three-peat. Like, it's difficult.
Got an unproven quarterback. So, I mean, it's understandable. And then everybody wants to point at Michigan and say Michigan should be ranked number 1. I understand that with the way that Michigan's looked.
Right.
But at this point, like BP said, who cares? Just keep winning.
Right.
Like this doesn't matter. In 8 weeks, we're going to talk about this. But it doesn't matter if you're ranked 1 or 12 if you're OU.
Right.
You win this week, it takes care of itself.
Sure.
And that's what I've said. I said, as a Texas fan, I don't care how it looks every week. Just win.
Yeah. Yep.
Just win.
Who was it?
TCU last year.
Yeah, TCU. The Raiders guy. I can't think of his name. Just win, baby.
Just win, baby.
But anyway, Dal, we'll get into our Week 5 recap. We're not going to just totally dissect these games. We're going to touch on them. I went 3-3 this week. You went 4-2. Had a pretty good week. You were a disappointment from LSU away from a 5-1 week. Man, that game. But my Superdog did hit BYU on Friday night. Yours did not with South Carolina, I believe. They kind of got brows beat by Tennessee.
It was Tennessee Super Bowl.
It was Tennessee Super Bowl, if you ask Spencer Rattler, which that was a bit of an odd. South Carolina, I'm not sure what to think about that operation. It's a little odd. They seem to have a lot of excuses.
Is Beamer mid? Is all the hype that he got about Beamer ball and
he might
him
be
being like doing all the goofy antics? Is that just?
I still like Beamer. I do like Beamer, but yeah, maybe South Carolina. There's a lot of work to be done there.
All South Carolina is, and my buddy Conley will love this reference. Light shows and tricks, baby.
Yeah,
light shows and tricks.
Yeah, that's true. They might be. But our first game, Dalt, recap real quick. Louisville on Friday night defeats NC State. And I mean, they cover by the skin of their teeth. -3, come in as 3-point favorites. They win this game 13-10. I believe they kicked a field goal towards. I don't know how close it was towards the end of the game, but I think they kicked the field goal and they win this game 13-10. So I think I texted you that night and I told you the age-old thing of, hey, good teams win,
great teams
cover. So, obviously. We talked about that game. That's a great win for them, just in the sense that, NC State's a tough place to play.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you go in there, like, that's a really good crowd, really well-coached team. Obviously, they're not, not a great team this year, but that's a good win for Louisville. And they didn't really play that well, didn't score any points until second half of the game. Went into halftime down 10-0. The Plummer kid was not very good. Only 286 yards and a touchdown, had 2 picks. But ultimately, Louisville covers, and they got the game we're going to talk about, their toughest test of the season coming up against Notre Dame. I believe that game is at Notre Dame. So is it in Louisville? So that helps a little bit. But yeah, Louisville 5-0, 3-0. Hey, sleeper. I told you they were a sleeper. I know ball.
You act like Duke isn't 4-1 with a.
I'm not saying nothing against.
Loss.
I'm not saying nothing bad about Duke. Hey, good for both of us. We both predicted.
Here's my thing. Nobody really. We don't get this big following, listening or whatever on Spotify or anything like that. People don't want to listen and tune in. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we're not just two guys bullshit.
Go back and check the tape.
Yeah.
I said Louisville was a sleeper in the ACC. Dalton said Duke was 4-1 and 5-0. That that tracks.
Hey, my one loss was to Notre Dame, a top 10 team.
And a game they probably should have won.
Should have won.
Yep. So Louisville covers here, Dalt. Don't have a whole lot more on this game. Good for my Cardinals.
No, it just kind of an ugly game. Maybe a little bit of a look ahead for Louisville.
Right. Yeah. So
I mean, it's crazy to say Louisville was looking ahead of somebody, but I mean, you got Notre Dame coming in. All you got to do is take care of business.
I'm a little worried about my Cardinals this week because they have not looked. It's a very scary 5-0, Dalt. Have not looked great all year. But
is Notre Dame going to be the ACC fan favorite killers?
They might be. Yeah, the
2 weeks in a row.
A 2-week stretch. Yeah. So we actually both did take Louisville. So we got off to a good start on Friday night, taking Louisville both at -3. And so we will move into our next game, Dalt, which we both were wrong on. Took Arkansas plus 6.5 against A&M.
Boy, they look bad.
And Arkansas looked terrible.
Gosh, they look so bad.
A&M wins this game 34-22, and it was just really never very close.
Nope.
I mean, Arkansas, they could not move the football. They couldn't score. I guess they made it. Last I had checked, I think it was like 34-16, and they, I think, scored late. But, yeah, just Arkansas did not look very good in this football game.
Let me give you a little stat rundown here of what's not going to win a football game. You ready for this?
Okay.
9 for 17, 132 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interceptions. Your SEC kind of preseason. He was a preseason all SEC team, wasn't he?
Something like that.
Rocket Sanders, 11 carries, 34 yards. That dog is not going to hunt. You're not going to win. And everybody can say, oh, well, Texas A&M's defensive front so good. I expected so much more from this Arkansas team this year. And their offensive coordinator and Sam Pittman bamboozled me. A lot like they've bamboozled a lot of college football.
How hot is Sam Pittman's seat getting, Dalt? After, 2 years ago, they go 9-3 or 9-4. I think they went 9-4. They lost their bowl game, I think. But I think they went 9-3 in the regular season.
Last year they went 7-6 and about lost to Kansas.
Yeah,
in the bowl game.
We're talking about in the preseason of KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders being the best running back quarterback duo in the conference. And I mean, you go out there, and I know this is no discredit to A&M because they maybe have the best defense in the SEC right now. I mean, they look really good defensively.
They look great.
Some of those 5-star defensive linemen, they seem to be kind of getting it done for them up front, which is probably a big result of.
It's bad for us.
It's not great, no. That's probably a big result of why Sanders only had 11 carries for 34 yards. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas this game, I don't think I watched a single second of this game, Dalt, but it was 17-6 at halftime. And I mean, Arkansas just.
Now, don't get me wrong. Texas A&M didn't look great.
No.
On offense.
I mean,
I don't want to just browbeat them. I know both teams I know Arkansas had a pick 6. They kind of got them jump-started, and everybody's like, okay, here they come to start the second half. But Texas A&M had a pick 6. They had a punt return touchdown. Like, you find ways to win these rivalry games in those kind of non-offensive plays. And that's what Texas A&M did.
Right.
Now Texas A&M is going to have to do that again this week.
Yes. So we both took Arkansas plus 6.5. I think that was maybe more out of spite because we don't like A&M.
174 yards, Arkansas. 174 yards. How bad is LSU's defense?
It's not good. They just gave up 55 to Ole Miss.
But this Arkansas team kind of shellacked them.
Yeah. I mean,
in
LSU's
Death
defense,
Valley.
Well, we're going to talk about it. It's not good. Not good at all. But, Dalt, we both, like I said, both took Arkansas there. So that was a loss for both of us. I didn't even really think Arkansas would win the game. I just thought it would be close because
I thought they had a good shot to win the game.
With it being a rivalry game, that game's always close. It's been pretty wild the last few years. But moving on, Dalt, a game that was also not close, and you want to talk about running the football. We saw some running of the football in this game, and that was the Kentucky Wildcats defeating the Florida Gators handily 33-14. We both thought this was just easy money at Kentucky -2.5. We took the Wildcats, and that proved to be the winning ticket. They, like I said, win this game 33-14. Ray Davis, familiarize yourself with the name.
Figure it out.
26 carries, 280 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And they even had a play, Dalton, where Florida had 13 players on the field, and he still scored a touchdown. Scored.
Can't stop him.
I mean, we go from a week where we have 10 guys on the field to a week where we have 13. What is going on? Ray Davis, great. I mean, right now, is he the best running back in the SEC? I mean,
yeah. I mean, he would have to be. I couldn't think of anybody off the top of my head that would make me want to pick them to be my starting running back outside of him right now.
I do think, though, if you're Kentucky, you are a little concerned with the fact that Devin Leary only 9 for 19 for 69 yards, and he did have a touchdown, but massive, massive game coming up for the Wildcats, kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Mark Stoops and boys. I mean, I know Kentucky's always pretty solid. They field a good defense. They're a good team, but they got a test this week against the number 1 team in the country. So we're fixing to really find out how good your buddy Conley's Kentucky Wildcats are.
Devin Leary's got to be better than this.
Yes.
He's got to be better than he's been all year,
and
if we're being completely honest.
That game is in Athens.
Yep.
But we were both on Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, Florida, really bad. Shouldn't have been ranked in the top 25.
The bamboozled. That Tennessee win was bamboozled.
I mean, that's the only game that they've looked competitive in pretty much all year. And
how good is Tennessee?
Right. So, both took Kentucky there, Dalt. That was a win for us. We move on. Friday night game. Oregon State at home defeats the Utah Utes 21-7. You were all over Oregon State on this game.
This was easier money than the Kentucky game.
I honestly just think I took Utah just to have a little bit of difference because we were picking every game the same, and I thought Utah might have a chance, but man, they just cannot score without Cam Rising. I mean, you hold them to 21 points, like they do a decent job defensively, but they just can't score. And I mean, Oregon State's that's no slight to them, but I think if they have Cam Rising, this is probably a different game,
a more competitive game. But I still don't think they win it.
Right.
I mean the Johnson kid goes 8 for 23 for 101 yards. I told you, man, Corvallis is a tough place to play.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. Oregon State's a good football team. And I like Utah. I like what they're about. I like what they do. Whittingham. But yeah, Oregon State they just look like the better team, more well-rounded team. But you took them at -3. I took Utah. Kind of a quiet game for DJ. Only 204 yards, had 1 touchdown, 1 INT. But
that's all they need from him. I mean, this Oregon State team. They love to run the football, and they're going to do that at every chance they get. I mean, they only had 131 yards in this game, but they ran it 36 times. Like, they're going to control possession. I mean, Utah rushed it 32 times for 57 yards.
Yeah,
1.8 yards a carry, and Oregon was penalized 11 times for 100 yards, still won by 14.
Yeah,
like if they're
just a better team right now.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's
100%.
just that's all you can say.
I mean, this is going to be this Pac-12 coming down the finish is going to be sneaky good, and they're probably going to eat each other alive.
Yeah, I mean that's typically what kind of happens out there. They cannibalize themselves, and that's what causes them to miss the playoff. But Dalt, you took Oregon State there, so that was a win for you. I obviously took Utah, but we will move on. I know this is a game you're not going to love talking about. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish go on the road to Duke, and they pull away at the very last minute. For the second week in a row, Notre Dame game comes down to the final minute. They score a late touchdown, Audric Estime, 30-yard run. They actually put up a huge game for us, actually, because we both took Notre Dame. 5.5.
Yeah.
They score that touchdown. It's 19-14, so they go for 2, and they get it. So the final here is 21-14. They win by 7. Riley Leonard gets hurt.
That's the scariest part of all this. Riley Leonard going down at the end of this game.
I mean, Sam Hartman was 15 of 30 for 222, but no touchdowns. I mean, Notre Dame, Duke's defense looked really good in this game. I mean, they really kind of held Notre Dame down for most of the game, and it looked kind of like, they go up 14-13, and it kind of looked like, hey, like Notre Dame just cannot score. So, like, I thought Duke was going to win the game. But, testament to Notre Dame. They scored, like I said, 30 seconds left on the clock. 2-point conversion obviously was huge for us because we both had them at -5.5 here. As much as I hate it for your Duke Blue Devils. This is a game I don't think that you would have picked them to win anyway.
No. I mean,
and it doesn't have any effect on their.
No. Everything's still in front of them for conference-wise to finish a close third like I have them picked.
Right.
But, I was watching this game at work, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, gosh, I really need Notre Dame to pull ahead and cover. And then, or because it was like what? It was 7-13, and I was like, okay, just like that's 6 points, that's a cover. And then Duke scores, and I find myself thinking, just get one more stop, Duke. Yeah. Just get one more stop. I don't even care about my pick. Just get one more stop.
Oh yeah.
And then it's what was 4th and 16.
It was a huge fourth down play. Yeah,
it was 4th and long, and whenever he like stands in the pocket and goes to scramble, I'm like, it's over.
Yeah,
like Sam, this isn't Sam Hartman's game. He's not going to go find however many yards he needed, and they just weren't home. Like they weren't ready for him to take off running, and good for him for going and getting it.
Mm-hmm.
But just if there was ever one play that Mike Elko wishes he could have back, it's probably that one.
Right.
Because you get that stop. Notre Dame doesn't have any more timeouts. They can't stop it. There's a minute left.
I mean, you look at it, Dalt, this final drive for Notre Dame, this is what you brought Sam Hartman in for. They go 10 plays, 95 yards. Like, you're probably just not doing that in years past with the quarterback play that they've had. And it's not that he, did anything incredible, but just his leadership, his experience, and the fact, like, he is a really good quarterback. I mean, the guy's thrown for 1 million yards in college. So you look at that was kind of a team-defining drive for Notre Dame to go and get that victory. So we both win on this one, Dalt. We had Notre Dame at -5.5. And this last game we're going to touch on from Week 5, Ole Miss, who I still don't believe in. Still don't believe in Lane Kiffin. I don't think LSU's that good. So I know, hindsight's 20/20, I guess. But Ole Miss defeats LSU 55-49. Ole Miss covers +2. We both took LSU here, Dalt. And here's my question for you, Dalt. Everybody wants to talk about how, wow, this was a great game. Yeah. But hey, where was this at? Where was this energy at 2 or 3 years ago in the Big 12 when we had games like this? And it's just, defense is just terrible. Terrible defense. It's like, well, in mighty SEC, well, it's a great game. Just two great offenses, just trading punches. Like, no, that's two defenses that are probably very average against two good offenses, because you look a week ago what Alabama did to this Ole Miss offense, held them to 10 points, and this Brian Kelly LSU defense
gives up 55.
Brian Kelly, what are we doing? 3-2, ranked number 5 in the country in the preseason, and you're 3-2, somehow still in the top 25.
SEC bias. I mean, according to Kirby Smart, the entire 14 teams in the SEC should be ranked in the top 25.
Nobody wants to play Vanderbilt. Right. Okay.
No, what a game. I mean, the defenses are bad, but I'm kind of that guy that really enjoys watching these shootouts. I mean, we've kind of grown accustomed to them, but it's just so hard for me to get behind these LSU defense now. Like, you can't just... Preseason is all that LSU has now.
Right.
Like, you're 1-1 in conference play in the West. You still have to play Alabama on the road, where Jalen Milroe is liable to run all over you. And then you still have to play Texas A&M, whose defense is really good, and offense kind of finds a groove between now and then. You're looking at 3 losses in the West.
Yeah, I mean, is there a potential for like an 8-4, 7-5 season?
I mean, just they could lose this weekend.
Yeah,
they could lose to Missouri.
Missouri looks decent. I mean, I think Missouri's going to be able to score. They probably maybe have one of the best playmakers in the conference in the Burden kid.
Maybe one of the best wide receivers in the country.
Which that's a game we're going to touch on here pretty quick. But yeah, LSU just, I mean, talk about disappointing team for a lot of people. I mean, I don't think me or you, neither one. I was probably a little higher on them than you, just because I like the Daniels kid, Harold Perkins has just been non-existent this year. I talked about both of those guys being huge parts of their team. And they, the Daniels kid's been fine, but, I did make the point that I thought people were maybe a little higher on LSU than they needed to be because of the fact that I think a lot of people were focusing on what they were capable of and not their deficiencies that they had last year in a couple of games that they looked really bad, like against A&M a year ago. They lost that game to an A&M team that they had no business losing to a year ago. But, yeah, we both took LSU here. Then the more I think about it, I wonder why we even did it, but we did, so that was a loss for us.
I think we didn't trust Lane Kiffin.
Right.
A top 25 game, this is Lane Kiffin's MO to go lose.
Right. So, with that, Dalton, like I said, you went 4-2, so good week for you. Improved your record overall to 20-10. Having a good year so far.
Good year.
I moved to 13-17, pretty much par for the course for me. If anybody listens to this game podcast, do not take any advice I give on betting these games. So yeah, week 6 preview, Dalt. Let's get into it.
It's a good week.
It's a good week.
I know. All the focus is on Red River this week, but there are a lot of really good games this week.
We got 4 top 25 against top 25 matchups, and then 2 other games that are right on the fringe of being top 25 matchups. But our first game, we're heading to SEC country, Dalt. We have the number 11 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide right off the rip. I'm putting you on the spot right off the rip.
I told you I've been back and forth with this game. Since we've talked about discussing this game, I've looked into it, and I've just been back and forth. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one to pick.
It's a tough pick.
Alabama heading on the road to College Station, take on the Texas A&M Aggies at 2:30. This will be the CBS primetime SEC game. Alabama comes in. Currently, we have them as a 2.5-point favorite on the road. So, Dalt, what do you?
Where have I landed on this?
What have you made a decision? That's what I'll ask you.
So, going into this, everybody knows Alabama has kind of halfway found a groove. They've looked good the last 2 weeks. They beat quality opponents. Like we said, they beat Ole Miss, who just beat LSU. They handled Mississippi State, who kind of tacked one on late to make that game interesting. Texas A&M has also looked very good since that loss to Miami. Now, they haven't played probably a quality opponent like Alabama has, but this defensive front looks very good. I mean, I think they're averaging 5 sacks a game. And I believe Alabama is giving up 5 sacks a game. So that's never a good thing, especially when you're going on the road to maybe one of the most hostile environments in the SEC. But give me Alabama. I trust Alabama's defense more than I trust Texas A&M's offense, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think that Texas A&M could probably keep it close, but I think this is just one of them things where, I can't pick Texas A&M. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
I understand.
I can't do it.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Dalton. When you told me how you felt about this game, I made the conscious decision that I was going to go opposite of whatever you picked, simply because I need something. I'm telling you, I need it, and as much as it absolutely pains me to take A&M in this game, I actually do think that there are some good arguments to be made as to why they could win this game. It is at home. Alabama offensively has, I'm not going to say they've looked flat out bad, but they have not looked great, offensively. The Milroe kid's still just trying to kind of get his footing. I do think he's going to come along as the season goes on, and that I just think A&M's defense may have a chance to give him some problems. But I'm telling you, this is kind of just a prove-it game for Jimbo yet again. I mean, he's in a spot 4-1 where he can take kind of a stranglehold on the SEC West. It's almost the perfect spot for him to totally fail, so it scares me to take the A&M at plus 2.5. But I'm going to take. I told myself I was going to go opposite of whatever you did, so I'm going to take Texas A&M at plus 2.5. Moving on, Dalt. Number 13, Washington, going on the road, heading down to Los Angeles to take on the UCLA Bruins. This game's at 2 o'clock. UCLA, unranked, comes in as a 3.5-point home favorite. what is this?
I don't know where this is coming from. As back and forth as I was with Texas A&M Alabama, I knew who I was picking as soon as we decided on this game. You're giving me the better team plus the points all day. All day. You give me Wazoo all day. I know UCLA has looked good some places, but I go back to that Utah game where they just looked terrible. And UCLA is not exactly a rough road environment. I mean,
no.
they have
they'll
to
be lucky if there's like 100 fans.
Like they have to put the giant Jordan banners over
Parts of the
a
seats.
third of their seats to make it look full. So give me Wazoo. I think Wazoo's been tested more than UCLA has.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Wazoo plus 3.5.
Yeah, I as much as I'd like to try and get another game on you, I think if I did this, I wouldn't. So I'm going to take Washington State as well. I just think they're a better football team. They look a lot better than I think people thought. You know, a lot of stuff has been brought up, which ESPN's matchup predictor gives UCLA a 66% chance to win this game, and they are 3.5-point favorites. I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't understand why.
Well, it's all about the analytics and stuff.
Well,
I mean, it's stuff that me and you don't ever even think about.
I've seen a deal. I heard somebody talking about this because OU has a higher win probability than Texas does.
Right.
And I've seen somebody talking about this. This actually goes off of ESPN's predictor goes off of point differential.
Oh yeah.
So I guess they have a higher point differential.
Yeah.
No, I mean this is.
I'm with you. I think Washington State's the easy pick here. UCLA is not a tough place to play, especially at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like I said, they'll be lucky if there's a couple hundred fans probably in the bleachers. UCLA playing kind of a little bit of a different brand of football for Chip Kelly than kind of what you're used to. But, Washington State's head coach kind of been one of those guys that's been talked about for this Michigan State job. So, maybe he's trying to bolster that resume for that. But, yeah, I like Washington State here a lot, Dalt. So give me the Cougars plus 3.5 as well.
The Cougars.
So we move on, Dalt, to our third game. This is our first top 25 versus top 25 matchup somehow or another. Number 23 LSU heading on the road up to Columbia to take on the 21st ranked Missouri Tigers at 11 a.m. And even as bad as they looked last week, Dalt, on the road, LSU comes in as a 6.5-point favorite in this game. And at the beginning of the season, Dalt, I would have said Missouri has no chance to win this game.
I still don't think they have much of one.
I agree. I'm still not sure that they have much of a chance, but I think there is a chance. But I'll let you tell me what you think. What are your thoughts on this game?
So, listen to the yards allowed here, and I want you to tell me which team you think's which. Just close your eyes and don't think nothing about the last game. 317 total yards given up, 430 total yards given up. Who's who?
What was the first number?
317.
That's probably Missouri.
It is.
I mean,
it is. Granted, LSU did just give up 700 yards to Ole Miss, but they are giving up 430 yards a game. 260 through the air, 170 yards on the ground. Now, Missouri is not a run-the-ball first football team. Eli drinks a lot.
I don't even know who they have at running back, to be honest.
Schrader.
Yeah,
Schrader. 81 carries for almost 500 yards.
It's not bad.
Not terrible. Give me Mizzou.
Mizzou plus 6.5.
I think this is kind of one of them games that it's going to get into another shootout. And I think that Luther Burden, there's nobody on this LSU secondary that can cover him. And I think that they're going to have to do kind of like over-the-top, double-team, shade, whatever, to keep him from going off. And that's going to open things up for a Theo Weiss or another receiver on this Missouri team. So give me Missouri plus 6.5.
I'm just going to try to get a game back on you here, and I'm going to take the Tigers -6.5. I think maybe they do win this game by a touchdown, so I like that it's under 7. I'm not high on Missouri. I know they're undefeated. A lot of people like them. I think that they're maybe more so undefeated because of their defense than their offense, which that could be the reason they win this game. LSU, the strength of LSU is 100% their offense. I mean, without question. Daniel's kid has had a good year.
He's looked great. He's just
fine.
not getting any help.
But yeah, I mean, the question is Missouri going to have enough firepower to probably keep up with LSU, because that's maybe what this is going to turn into. So I don't necessarily know that they do, but we'll see, because that LSU defense is not very good. But I'm going to take the Tigers here at -6.5, try to maybe get a game back on you, Dalt. Next game, top 25 matchup again. Number 10, Notre Dame, team we just talked about in our recap, going on the road again. Another top 25 matchup, Dalt, heading to the 25th ranked Louisville Cardinals. This is actually the 6:30 primetime game on ABC. Notre Dame comes in here on the road as a 6.5-point favorite. I as much as it pains me, I think I know where I'm going on this game. What do you think, Dalt?
Kind of the same thing as last week. I just don't think that, kind of like my Duke Blue Devils, I don't think your Louisville Cardinal have the horsepower to hang with this Notre Dame team. Kind of the opposite reason. The reason I thought Duke might be able to give them a good game was Duke plays really, really good defense.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that this Louisville team plays that caliber of defense. And if you're going to ask me to take Sam Hartman or Jack Plummer in a shootout,
yeah.
I'm unfortunately going to take Sam Hartman. Now, I know that Notre Dame is without some key receivers, so that might play some. But I'm going to take Notre Dame.
I think I'm with you. I think I like Notre Dame -6.5 as much as I love to see the Cardinals doing what I predicted them to do. This game's not going to have a real huge impact on that prediction, kind of like it didn't for you last week. And as much as I liked Louisville in the preseason, that 5-0 record is a pretty shaky 5-0 record. They have not looked great. I mean, you're talking about they beat Georgia Tech by 5 week 1.
Yeah,
like they beat Indiana 21-14. Now, they did hammer Boston College, something that Florida State can't say they did. But then they beat, NC State only by 3 points. So they just haven't looked real consistent, I guess, or even like because they really haven't played anybody. I mean, these teams they've played are not very good. So I just think Notre Dame's just more talented. They're better, like you said, at quarterback. They are definitely better at running back. They're head coach, I think Louisville may have the edge on that with head coach just because the Brome guy's got all the experience that he has. But I think Louisville keeps this close, but I like Notre Dame -6.5. I think they maybe win by 10. I'll say that. So we will move on, keep the ball rolling here, Dalt. We've got number 20, Kentucky, heading to Athens, Georgia, to take on the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs at 6 o'clock. So Athens at night, probably walking into an absolute hornet's nest, Dalt. Quite a big spread here, though. We've got Georgia at -14.5.
That's 2 tutties.
That is more than 2 touchdowns. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Kind of a surprising thing. Who, just off the top of your head, would you think gives up more rushing yards, Kentucky or Georgia?
Well, since you're asking me, I'm just going to say Georgia.
Georgia does give up more rushing yards than Kentucky. They give up 113 yards a game, and Kentucky only gives up 75. Now, Kentucky does give up 220 yards passing, and this is kind of becoming a Carson Beck to Brock Bowers show.
He's really good.
He's really good.
Really good.
Second best tight end in the country.
Yeah, you might be right. He's really good.
Oh my gosh! Give me Kentucky. Give me Kentucky.
I love it.
Plus 14.5. I think Kentucky just leans on Ray Davis.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Florida's defense is terrible, but they're going to have to continue to lean on him. Like whether it's 3rd and 7 or 2nd and 12, they're going to have to lean on him. Like if it's not working, you're going to have to just keep – I know people say you just can't keep running into a brick wall, but you're going to have to. Devin Leary has a bit of a turnover problem at Kentucky.
Yeah. So, Dalt, let me ask you. If I just said, last week in Georgia's football game, them or the team they played had 43 carries for 219 yards. Which team would you have guessed that was in that game?
I would have said Georgia.
Okay, well, that's not the case.
It's Auburn.
Auburn ran for 220 yards last week. And we've got probably right now the best running back in the conference.
Maybe in the country.
In Ray Davis. So, with that, as I'm sure you have seen the full episode notes, I'm taking Kentucky plus 14.5.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
I think
Georgia can be had.
I think Georgia is vulnerable. And then, this is probably a game that they're going to win by 21.
Just come out.
If that's what happens, then it's just going to be like Georgia's still really good.
Well, Kirby Smart's in the locker room right now telling this team that they're 6-6.
Yeah.
They're going to be lucky to make a bowl game.
Yeah, you guys don't even deserve to be on the same field as Kentucky.
Yeah.
I like Kentucky, Dalt, plus 14.5, and I have a little bit more on that game coming up. So I will give you Kentucky there at plus 14.5. Let me get that down here. And I also like Kentucky. So with that, Dalt, we are back again for our second edition of the Cover 2 pod of Red River. It is the single greatest game in college football.
Hands down.
I will hear no other argument about the Iron Bowl or the game. I don't care that it's been played longer. I don't care about Ohio State and Michigan and their massive stadiums. There is nothing in the world of college football that compares to the State Fair of Texas in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. 50-50, split at the 50-yard line, one end in the other, half burnt orange, half crimson. It is the single greatest spectacle in the sport. I will hear no argument. We got number 3 Texas versus number 12 Oklahoma. 11 a.m., as always, for most of our life anyway. Texas is a 6-point favorite, Dalt. Tell me what you think of your Longhorns. What do we got here?
I think my Longhorns are the best team in the country.
Yeah.
I think that you pair a very balanced, very physical offensive line with a very prolific group of playmakers and a quarterback that has done a fairly good job of distributing the ball and taking care of it, with a defense that is very stingy in the run game. Teams are not going to get a whole lot of push in the run game on this Texas front. This might be people are calling the best front in college football, and that's saying a lot with what Georgia and what Alabama have on the front of their defenses. With that being said, we can be had. The secondary, mainly the safeties, can be had in coverage. But that's on down the field throws. Something that this Lebby-led, Dylan Gabriel, noodle-armed lefty sumbitch just love to do is sling it down the field. But he's got to have time to do that, and and it needs to be coupled with a good run game. And unfortunately for your beloved Sooners, y'all have a very subpar run game.
Yeah, it's not good. The running back situation at Oklahoma has been a bit of a odd, I guess you could say, situation.
Why is the Sawchuk kid not getting the reps?
There's been a lot of talk about the DeMarco Murray, running back coach, and he's real big on how they practice during the week, and it's kind of been like every week they have kind of picked a different guy, and the Barnes kid out of camp and over summer, I think was pretty much everybody's odds-on favorite to be the guy. But that just hasn't been the case. And then actually Venables in the post-game, I think, last week said that he's not fully healthy and hasn't really been since fall camp. I want to say he had some kind of minor surgery. But yeah, the running back situation's just not I'm not going to say it's terrible. Like they've ran the ball okay. They just haven't really. It's almost like they just haven't been able to get in any kind of a groove, and they just are splitting. You don't have one single guy because they're just splitting carries so much between Marcus Major and the Walker kid and those other two.
Well, and Dylan Gabriel.
And right, and they're leaning more on Gabriel to run the football, which is good, and that's what Levy wants to do, and they feel like they can do that a little bit more because their quarterback situation is obviously better than it was a year ago, they believe, with the backup situation. But I totally agree with you, Dalt. As much as I hate to admit, your Longhorns are very good. They're really I don't know that this team has a glaring weakness. Like, I'm just going to be as non-biased as possible. I do think if there is money to be made in this game, it is OU throwing the ball deep, but at the same time, you're 100% right. You kind of need to establish the run, which is something that OU's had trouble doing, and pass block. Now, I will say, OU's pass protection has been excellent.
It's been very good.
Very good.
Dylan Gabriel's only been sacked 4 times this year.
But they also haven't. I mean, Iowa State, I'm not going to say they're what they've been, but that's still a good defense. Like John Haycock always has a good defense. They get after you, And then Cincinnati, I think their defensive line, those two guys they have, the Briggs kid and Corleone, 2 of the better defensive linemen in the conference. A lot of people are high on the Corleone kid. They blocked them up really well in that game. But that is going to be a question, is if Gabriel's under pressure, what's that going to look like? Is he going to turn the ball over? I think this is going to be a really good game, Dalt.
I think it's going to be a great game.
And I mean, they've talked to OU guys. Obviously, I am closer to that than you. They can say what they want to about 49-0 last year, not being a contributor into the motivation of this game. But me and you both played sports.
Oh,
we're competitors.
100%.
Like, I mean, that's in the back of these guys' minds. And I'm not going to say that they're going to go out and try to prove a point as far as that's concerned, but that's going to be a factor in this game to those guys. So, Texas -6. I think I told you earlier this week, I don't know that Oklahoma can win this game as much as it pains me. I think they can win the game, but it's going to take,
It's going to take perfection.
One thing Oklahoma has done well this year, they've blocked like 3 punts. You may need something like that to happen in this game. That's something. Special teams are always a huge factor in this game. Special teams and turnovers.
Yep.
Whichever team usually wins those 2 things, and I mean, that can be said in any football game, but in a rivalry like this, that's just such a huge deal because of momentum more than anything, and the crowd. But you like Texas -6, I assume.
Well, and just kind of a little thing to throw out there. We talked about the run game. I went back and I looked at every game for the last 10 years. And I sent this in the group chat. 8 of the last 10 winners of Red River won the rushing battle.
Right.
And I think that that's probably still going to hold true. I seen another stat. Somebody else went deeper than I did, and they said it had come to find out that 18 of the last 20 winners had won the rushing battle.
Right.
I think that's advantage Texas. I think that, and I'm not going to take anything away from OU and Brent Venables. What he has done from year 1 to year 2, he has improved the team, and that's all you can ask. That's all we asked of Sark last year. But the only thing is, Brent Venables is in his 2nd year, to whereas Steve Sarkisian is in his 3rd year. And I think that Texas may be just a year ahead of where OU is, and I think that's going to be the deciding factor. I think that this game could turn into kind of a boring Texas kind of possesses the football, runs it. That way we can give our defense a chance to rest. You guys can't go tempo and everything like that. So I'm going to take Texas -6.
Yeah, I mean, you look here at like the team stats, and it's 2 teams that, I had mentioned this to you earlier this week. They're fairly similar in what they're gaining, rushing and passing, like within 50, 30, 40, 50 yards as far as, passing yards allowed, rushing yards for, and passing for. So I do think these teams are, fairly similar. I just think Texas is just, they're a little sharper. Like you just made that comment, just kind of a little further along in the process. And, as an Oklahoma fan, like I'm not a typical Oklahoma fan that's going to scream and holler on here and say, Texas, OU is going to go in there and just kick Texas around by 28. Like, would I love for that to happen? Absolutely. Obviously.
You take that any day.
If that happens, that's great. But I do think this game's going to be close, and I'm going to take Oklahoma +6. I don't personally think they're going to win the game. I could see something like 35-31, something like that, or like 31-27. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be a super low-scoring game. I do think both of these teams are pretty good defensively, pretty good offensively, so I think there's going to be some give and take there with, what's the turnover look like? That, again.
The over-under 60. What do you got? Do you think that hits the over?
I think it gets really close. I mean, 35-31 obviously would.
Yeah.
31-27 would be close, but I think 60 is good. I think that's why that 35-31, 31-27, something 31-28, something like that. I like Oklahoma +6, but again, pains me to say I'm not sure my Sooners come out on top. I obviously will be watching, rooting, hopefully.
You work that morning?
I do. I do have to work, so sadly I'm not just going to get to sit down, relax, and enjoy what I think is going to be an incredible game. But, Dalt, we have a little bit more here. You like Texas -6. I like Oklahoma +6. We are going to get into our super dogs, and then we have kind of a new little thing we're going to do. We'll get into that, but who give me your super dog this week, Dalt? Are you done with OU Texas?
Yes, I'm done with OU Texas. My super dog this week is the Arizona Wildcats against the USC Trojans. They are. I'm going to take them +21. Oh. They just had a very, very good game against Washington.
They did.
To where I think they only lost by 7 to Washington. I think Washington is probably a more complete team than USC is.
Now, I do think they scored late, but still, 7-point game.
Backdoor cover. Yep. All I need them to do is lose by 20.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, you saw what happened last week.
Winner, Lincoln Riley.
Well, anytime you take the spread against Lincoln Riley, that's a great pick, Dalton, let me tell you. I have very much experience in dealing with that. That is probably an excellent super dog pick. So I will give you Arizona +21. I'm going Wake Forest. It's the Clemson +21.
Ooh, I don't know, bub.
We'll see. Wake Forest 3-1. I was looking and I couldn't really find anything that I liked, and then I saw that game, and I don't think Wake Forest is very good. But I just saw 21, man. I just thought that was a lot for that game with, Clemson. I mean, I don't think they're a bad football team, but we don't really know that they're very great either. So I'm going to take Wake Forest +21, and I'm going to let that one ride, and we'll see what happens.
They haven't beat a Power 5 school by 21 all year. So
exactly.
I like it.
Yeah, give me the Demon Deacons +21, and we're going to get into this kind of new thing we're doing here, Dalt. A little bit of kind of a prediction, and it's what we're going to do is I want you to give me what will be the most least surprising outcome in a game, and it can be anything from a certain player's stats to a score to who wins a game, whatever it might be, and then we're going to do a boldest prediction for the week. So. With that, I will actually go first here on the least surprising outcome. And even though I picked A&M to cover, my least surprising outcome, Dalt, is Alabama beats A&M because they just seem to always do so. And I just, if they win this game, nobody's going to be shocked. And maybe that's the low-hanging fruit here, but it's just That's just what happens. Alabama beats A&M every time. And when it's like A&M's finally going to win this game, it's when you don't think A&M's going to win the game that they usually win, like a couple years ago. So Alabama beats A&M. That is your least surprising outcome for me in Week 6. Give me yours, Dalton.
Oklahoma State fans, cover your ears, but I think Kansas State routs Oklahoma State, and that's going to be the least surprising thing for me this weekend.
Well, we're going to find out if they start the Fire Gundy chant in the third quarter,
the step down chant.
Yeah, the step down chant. We're gonna see if that actually comes to fruition.
Might start in the second quarter.
Yeah, I do like this pick for you. I don't know that our buddies up in Stillwater are going to be able to keep that one real close. They just don't look very good. And the word out of Stillwater is we still don't know who the quarterback is, Dalt. So we're on Week 6. After the bye week, we still don't have that solidified. So Kansas State routing Oklahoma State, that would not shock me. So that's a great pick.
Michael Gundy. If you don't know who your quarterback is in Week 6, play the freshman.
Yeah.
The season's already shit. Play the freshman.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So we will move on to our boldest predictions, Dalton. I'm going to leave you on the mic here. Give me your boldest prediction for Week 6.
Texas beats OU by 3 scores.
Okay. That is bold because I genuinely, I'm not going to say it won't happen or can't happen, but I just don't.
I mean, 35-17, that's 3 scores.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Is it? No, it's not.
Not quite.
35-14.
38-17 would be.
38-17.
Yeah, which is possible.
Oh, no, 3 scores is 17 points.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see.
That's why it's a bold prediction.
My bold prediction, and I told you earlier this would go in, I was going to get back to that Kentucky game. The Kentucky Wildcats are going to go to Athens and beat Georgia.
And I love it.
I mean,
I know that
if the number 20 ranked team going on the road to number 1 and winning, if that's not a bold prediction, Dalt, then I don't really know what is. So yeah, Kentucky, Mark Stoops, Devin Leary, Ray Davis, getting it done in Athens. Give me the Wildcats.
I love it.
That's where we're at.
I love it. Just so everybody knows before we end the episode, before he can back out of it,
I forgot about this.
Me and my co-host here, Tim Smithson, have agreed to a
friendly wager,
a handshake deal, or a friendly wager.
A handshake deal.
The loser will wear the opposing team's get up. And I cannot wait to see you in Dana's medium crop top T-shirt.
I'm telling you right now, Dalton. I am telling you right now, you better hope that Texas does not lose this game because I have the perfect shirt. I mean, it is gold, perfection. So yes, that is a friendly wager we made. Obviously, being Oklahoma Texas fans, we wanted to spice it up this week. We made that bet. So the loser of this game will have to don the other teams. It may just be a hat, maybe a shirt, whatever it may be.
Maybe a Quinn Ewers jersey.
Maybe a jersey, yeah. Whatever it may be. It's winner gets to choose. So real quick, Dalton, we'll go back over our picks. A&M, Bama, you have Bama minus 2.5. I took A&M plus 2.5. Washington State, UCLA, we both took Washington State plus 3.5. LSU at Missouri, you took Missouri plus 6.5. I took LSU minus 6.5. Notre Dame at Louisville, we both took Notre Dame minus 6.5. Kentucky at Georgia, we both took Kentucky plus 14.5. And then Texas versus OU, you took Texas minus 6. I am taking Oklahoma minus 6. Again, our super dogs are, you got Arizona plus 21. I took Wake Forest plus 21. And so with that, Dalt, we got a great weekend of college football. Going to find out a lot about a lot of teams this weekend. But we may or may not be back for a recap episode. If not, we'll just do a normal one like this that we did today again next week. But Dalt, if you don't have anything else to add, then I guess we will see you guys on the next episode, and we are out.
Don't forget to cover the flats.